dated the 4th of March 2025. So let's get over. We got a few missing, so start with the apologies, please.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor McGrath, Councillor Matthew, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Murray.
Okay, and on the absentee list without anything is Mel Jacob, Nick Murray, Tom Rounds. So, okay, no substitutes. You're in. Gotcha.
Yes.
Oh, apologies, Nick, if you're listening. Sorry. Right. Okay. So minutes the previous meeting. Now, is the committee happy for me to move the minutes from the meeting held on the 14th of January 25 as a true record? But Councillor Walters, I'm giving you permission to make a comment relating to those minutes. So you're going to need a seconder if you're going to propose that you want to make. So you'd like to propose, you want to just say something, yeah? And I'll second you so you can move on.
Okay, thank you. I just requested that that this wording was replaced. This is the wording that I was looking to have replaced. The wording was, it was emphasised that minimising the risk to road users with the resources available was a priority for the council, and when considering promoting active travel, particularly in more rural areas, it was important to ensure the correct routes for all cyclists, be it recreational or utility. As page 11, such understanding, the data was crucial in understanding how to make the network as user-friendly as possible and ensuring that residents understood that it was one tool in the mechanism to deliver the business plan priorities. I thought that was a bit clunky and a bit difficult to understand. And in particular, since I was the one that was making the comment, I would like to replace it with, it was emphasised that poor road surfaces and particularly potholes inhibited cycling, and that, since active travel is a key component of LPT4, with 280 mentions, that carriageway repair priorities should reflect that. Good question. Yes, please. It's part of the carriageway.
Without having any debate on it, I mean, I'm happy with that. I mean, we discussed it. Jackie, you just wanted to check those wordings, yeah?
So it was under LTP4, wasn't it?
That's right. Carriageway repair.
Carriageway repair, sorry.
Yeah, carriageway repair.
It is on pages, yeah. I think you're looking on the agenda, you're looking at pages 11 to 12. It's in there. And it is... Yeah, last bullet point.
Last bullet, it was emphasised at minimising the risk. That's the first one, yeah. Are you happy with that, Jackie? Yeah. Okay. Are there any objections to that? If not, then we'll just put that into the, just change those, or because you have written them in, so that's fine.
Right. Thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Then, all in favour? Yep, okay, then that's successfully moved. So declarations of interest, are there any declarations of disclosable interest or dispensations as granted by the Standards Committee? There are none. Only announcement I've got, at the request of Councillor Wright, Graham Wright, who's got to go to another meeting very shortly. I've just adjusted the running order slightly, so therefore we'll take the review of the work of the Climate Emergency Task Group first. So, Graham, you're there. Item 6. Away you go.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and thanks for putting me on first. I have got the 2:15. I have to leave in 7 or 8 minutes. So here we go. This is a review of the work of the Climate Emergency Task Group. Firstly, I'd like to thank all those members of the task group. They've contributed significant amount of time, expertise to our work. I'd highlight our recent work on scrutinising the decarbonisation elements of the local transport plan, in particular our response to the consultation in Appendix 1, and our recent engagement with Wiltshire Climate Alliance, which was extremely positive and welcomed. As you will see, the Climate Emergency Task Group is a very active task group. It's a very active, sorry about that, as a very active task group, having met 35 times between July 2021 and February 2025. The details of our activities over those years are laid out in Appendix 2. We have achieved a lot, but there is still room for improvement, and the task groups considering how it should adjust its work. Its suggestions are laid out in paras 22 to 26. We also gave thought to what issues and any further task groups might focus upon. Given our experience over the past 4 years, the list is not exhaustive, but there are key elements and oversight for scrutiny, and they're set out in Appendix 3. These have also been incorporated into review of the work of the Environment Select Committee, which is the next agenda item. Well, it won't be, it will be later in the evening or this afternoon. It won't be the evening, Jerry, I'm sure you. Right, the task group has diverted a considerable amount of work away from the Select Committee. We're really pleased that we managed to take a lot of work off your shoulders. I also think we've added value by focusing on the issues of climate change and helping the council develop its thinking and approaches to climate change. In the next council, Wiltshire will need to redouble its efforts in order to reach its carbon targets of 2030. The climate strategy we reviewed and the adaptation plan delivered. I would therefore suggest that continuing with this standing task group has never been more important. So I hope the Select Committee will adopt the report, and I am here to take any questions, but I want to thank the Environment Select Committee for giving us the opportunity to deliver such a positive task group. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Graham. To deliver this by 2030, 58 months away, that is, if you do it in months. When you say it like that, it's not as long as you think. It flies around. One term of council. Comments from any members? Anyone want to say anything? Any questions to ask to Graham or anyone? Ian McClellan, Graham.
Hello, Graham. I'd just like to say thank you very much to the climate emergency team, because they've been excellent in all the things that's been produced. And going forward, you've got a good set of things to go forward on. So good luck in the future, and thank you.
Thanks very much. And you can thank that gentleman sitting on your left, because he's been fundamental to that. Okay, thanks very much, Jerry. Thanks for putting me on, and hopefully we'll see you all in May.
Thanks a lot, Graham, and good luck with your meeting today, and thank you for your attendance on the Environment Select meeting. This is the last one today, so we don't know who'll be doing what, where, when.
What will I do with
Dominic,
my time?
sorry, Graham, before you go, Dominic wants to just come in. Dominic Munns, 2 seconds.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Yes, I just wanted to jump in very quickly before Graham goes to thank Graham and other members of the Climate Emergency Task Group for the ongoing interest that they show in the papers that come to them from the environment teams, for the scrutiny that they bring, and for the positive working relationship that comes across. It's this combined vision that I think is really useful. But you know, coming back, one of the key things is the scrutiny, particularly as today I presented two papers to Cabinet, and I didn't have any members of the opposition there to scrutinise it. So thank you to Graham and his team.
Yeah, I was the sole opposer, even though I was pro. Thank you.
So well done, Graham. Have a good time, and at least in this county we haven't got a drill, baby drill, so we're all right. Okay, right. I'm going to read out the proposals. That from there, yeah. Recruitment of the task group members. Sorry, approves the recommendations made. Sorry, Simon. That the Select Committee 1 notes the recent activity of the Climate Emergency Task Group and its response to the Local Transport Plan (LTP4) consultation in Appendix 1. B. Notes the activity of the Climate Emergency Task Group 21 to 25 in Appendix 2. C. Approves the recommendations made to improve the working of the task group regarding recruitment of the task group members, engagement with Cabinet members and officers, prioritisation of its workload, time-limited task groups and rapid scrutiny, stakeholder relationship planning. And D, approves the Climate Emergency Task Group suggested forward work plan in Appendix 3. Did everybody get that? Because I'm not reading it again. Okay. Can I have a proposer for that then, please? Ian, and seconded by Ian too. So Ian Wallace, Ian McClellan. All in favour of that? Thank you very much. And again, like I say, thank you, Graham. Away you go. Thank you very much. Cheers. It's gone. He's long gone. Okay. Right, okay. Toby Parochial, come on.
I was, well, it might be parochial, but not mine. Just wanted to add that on the report, on page 33, paragraph 18, they've mentioned about the Wiltshire COP. I don't think they're going to call it the COP, but this is the conference or event that Wiltshire Climate Alliance want to put on. My understanding, Ian, be able to confirm this, is it's hopefully going to be in Trowbridge, in this building, and it's going to be in June. So, and the idea is for our parish and town councils to potentially attend and come forward with what they're doing and not doing, and, you know, lots of learning. So I think that would be really useful for other members to be aware of. I don't suppose it's our place to promote it because it's Wiltshire Climate Alliance, but hopefully somebody could ask them at what point we can start to promote it.
I think that's something that we can pass on to the communications of the council and see if they can put it out there
Yeah,
for us.
we need to contact Wiltshire Community Alliance first.
Okay. Make a note of that. Thank you. Right, so back to the agenda, and we'll go back to the normal numbers now. So leisure services. We've got the leisure services update here. This is an item 6 on the agenda, which takes the form of presentation. This is on pages 19 to 30 of the agenda pack. We have with us Councillor Ian Blair Pilling, Cabinet for Public Health, Communities, Leisure and Libraries, who will be introducing this item. And then I think we've got David Redfern, welcome. And I think, have we got Justine Foster here? Head of Leisure Operations? No. So just the gang of two. So Ian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Unfortunate that Leisure and Libraries aren't quite the crowd puller I'd have hoped this afternoon, but there we are. Of course. I just want to make 3 points. The first one is the context of time, and therefore, and David's going to give you the detail and go through the slides. I would split the era of leisure in this as to pre-COVID, post-COVID. And it's not really COVID that's the important bit in that. It's that at the end of COVID, we insourced the 10 leisure centres that were being run separately. So it's only the last, or since 1st of October 2021, that we have run all 20 leisure centres directly. And that is kind of fundamental importance to what we're achieving. Those of you who are at full council and paying attention will have taken on board, I hope, the financial success in the area of leisure. And again, David's figures will bear out some of that and show you the pattern and the development of that. That is important to the sustainability of our leisure centres, i.e. maintaining the full set. But we've also got to a point now, I would suggest, where we are of financial significance and value to the council in terms of contributing to overall council budget. So that's got to be a good thing. And then in terms of the public, well, making those centres and what we do sustainable preserves them for the public. So that's a kind of triple whammy benefit in that. Behind all that has been, I've touched on the fact that they're all now run in-house, that we have been investing. David may be mentioning some of that, but I went through a good deal of that at council. But I would add to it, it's not just about renewing a gym or building a new building. What's gone on behind the scenes, much sure, is a lot more marketing and the quality of the service of the staff within the centres, and therefore their very performance attracts more customers, makes them, becomes a virtuous circle. Everything David's going to be talking to you is about the kind of numbers of footfall and finances and so on. The missing element in all of this, and the holy grail of the metrics, is how do we measure, how do we evaluate the social benefit of what we're doing? I regret that I can't sit in front of you and tell you that now. We're hot on the trail of it. We are pursuing the experts within the country on all this. There are various academic institutions involved trying to derive it. We know what the latest thinking is. The problem is it may well suit kind of those at a much higher level to understand it. It's not sufficiently granular to be of use to us at the moment, but we are working on it. So it's a work in progress, probably not a lot there isn't much I can tell you about that, but it's important in due course because it isn't just about keeping the centres viable, it's about what we do in raising the levels of health and well-being and to put it in a nutshell, building resilience in all of this. So I would like to be a lot further than we are, but we are where we are. And I would just make one final highlight in this, and that is to say that the importance of all of this to the rest of the council is increasingly understood and worked with. For example, David and I are now members of the Adult Social Care Transformation Board. That's because leisure is seen as instrumental in that, and not some separate silo that just provides swimming pools and a dance studio or whatever. It's a very different mindset, it's a very different approach that we have been building over the last 4 years. I will shut up now and let David do his, and I put him on a time limit. He doesn't get his pint if he doesn't finish in time.
Okay, David, you've got 600 seconds.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Yeah, delighted to be here. And yes, Ian's quite right. His introduction was not part of my 10 minutes. I will need the full 10 minutes to kind of go through this. So let's see where we go with this. So the first slide then is we were asked last time when we came in here March last year for a more granular detail of how the finances were going in the leisure service, or should I say the leisure operations service, so the facilities. One of the first this is about setting targets that are achievable, and what you'll see there is that we've set out the income and expenditure for 23-24. The first target was to achieve, and believe you me, there was not in all sites, as there still isn't, an income over expenditure. And that's in our budget, because as you can see on the footnote, this does not take into consideration FM costs, utilities, and a small amount of VAT, because there's a lot of VAT exemption nowadays. Thank you very much. But what you will see there is that most of the sites now are achieving a level of income above their expenditure. And for those that aren't, we have action plans that are going to help and support the majority of those sites get into that surplus situation in our budget. I'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions on this stuff at the end. As you can see there, two main core areas, and again, I like to concentrate the team on the areas that help support that sustainability most. It's only right that we pay the most attention to those areas that we get most reward from, and that's core fitness memberships and swim school memberships. As you can see there over the timeline, and we're delighted to announce the fitness memberships continue to rise. This takes us to a point at the beginning of January when we composed these slides. I can tell you in the last 6 weeks, we've again seen unbelievable returns, to be quite honest. I monitor them on a weekly basis. This is our busy period of year. I would expect them to be progressing nicely. They've even surpassed that. So that line continues on its trajectory upwards. With regard to swim school, the main issue there, and I think I've mentioned this to committee before, we have a supply that is in excess of we have a demand that is in excess of supply. Apologies. That's always a good situation to be in for a business. The main stumbling block there for us is the ability to employ swimming teachers. We've not been able to recruit. We didn't take that as a challenge that we was insurmountable. We never do. We've developed now our own swim teacher academy, so we're producing our own. But just to give you an idea, it takes about 2 years to develop a fully fledged swimming teacher. So from its inception, we are starting now to churn swimming teachers out. So we are now meeting that demand, but it will take time to play out. And hopefully next year, I can show you that it's progressing again. The next set of figures are, I've been to the committee before with a specific instance, but one of the things we work on with regard to the fitness memberships is this issue of latent demand, or this target of latent demand. And in a nutshell, that's the amount of fitness members that is worked out by scientific algorithms that we can actually meet in each community area or at each facility. So again, what you can see there is how we are working against that latent demand target. Each team, each site has a target for latent demand, and they are working towards that. You can't just do that with customer service and clean facilities. This is about developing facilities, which I'm going to come on to in the next site. But what you can see is we're over 100% in quite a few of our facilities now, and on a trajectory to surpass that latent demand figure in a great deal of the others. Just as I was mentioning, these are some of the developments we've been working on to give sites a helping hand over the past 12 months or so. We launched the Devisers New Fitness Suite last October. Lime Kiln actually has not had any fitness development yet. It's had other parts of the site developed, but already, as you can see, that's had an impact on the actual membership growth at that site. Hopefully I can come to the committee next year and show you how that's grown when we actually focused on the fitness suite, which we plan to do in the next couple of months. Five Rivers down in Salisbury has had a new kit replenishment. The Olympiad up in Chippenham has had new kit replenishment, as has Springfield. Springfield, the last one, that was December when we did that, but already showing a 4% growth. As you can see, the bigger the development, it doesn't always work that way, but Devisers was the biggest development that we've done as part of that recent upgrade of facilities, and there's a 32% growth already, and growing, I have to say. The next slide, I just thought I'd share with you that, so how do we know from a benchmarking perspective that we're doing well against the industry standards? Well, we are part of a national initiative called Moving Communities. All our data in Wiltshire goes into a national database. And I have to say, I think it's important to, you can see that we did a survey recently as part of that Moving Communities piece of work that we do. We had a significant amount of responses, and you can see the national responses there. Not all local authorities and operators use Moving Communities. I would suggest from industry experience, it's the better ones that do that. So who are you being compared against are the better ones nationally. And then you can actually benchmark yourself against the key kind of indicators. Staff helpfulness and friendliness, cleanliness, which we all know is really important in terms of customer service, and value for money. On every one of those indicators, we are coming out better than the national standards. And that NPS score really impresses me. A national standard of these people who are subscribing to Moving Communities, they have one of 28. and we have one of 36. So again, that is pretty impressive work from the team, from the leisure team. As with our annual report for the last couple of years, we were asked to look at bank holiday opening. I'm not really going to go today into the granular detail of bank holiday opening, just to remind the committee that I always have said that this is a 4 or 5 year project where we need to get data to help us focus on exactly how we need to be opening in bank holidays. A reminder to the committee as well that our current terms and conditions when bank holidays opening was removed from Wiltshire Council facilities do not help us here, because we have to rely on the goodwill of staff volunteering to come in on bank holidays. I have to say that in each of the 4 areas, north, south, east and west, since we started the trial a couple of years ago, we've not failed to open a facility in one of those areas, and that's down to goodwill of staff. Again, just to reiterate, we can't force them to do that as part of their terms and conditions. They are trying to help and serve the public at these times. So what this trial will help us do is push us towards exactly what facilities are getting the best returns, because there's only, as I said, one facility per community area, and what kind of programme, what are people coming in to do? We know that people are generally swimming more than any other activity, so it seems fit that we continue to put the pools on. Some of the trials aren't working, and over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, it will help to hone down where we've got a fixed, I would personally like a fixed way of working, because then customers are used to exactly what is going to happen on that bank holiday, and they know exactly where they can attend to continue with their fitness programmes. You can see the things that we've gleaned from it if you look at the slides, and happy to come back on any questions. And just lastly, I think it's important to say, and it's apt that Richard has come in the room actually, because what we do know is from our facilities in terms of, Ian's touched on the social benefits already. We do know, we have good data that just by having leisure facilities, we're not getting those residents from quintile 1 and quintile 2, so areas of deprivation, necessarily using those facilities. So the data is getting much better on that. And perhaps one thing that we need to involve in future years is talking about the outreach work that we're doing, because simply, again, by opening facilities, not every part of the population comes along. We have to work hard in getting out there, and these are examples of some of the schemes that we actually operate now to get amongst those communities, to get everybody physically active, and all the benefits in terms of health inequalities that this helps us to serve. And again, there's a little bit of a map for you there. You can see there's not many nooks and crannies in the county where some of these schemes aren't operating. It's pretty easy when you look at the key, but I'll leave you to do that in your own time. Hopefully, I was within the 10 minutes. The pint is at stake.
Did you want to say something, Ian, before
I just want to know, Chairman, was that over or under 10 minutes? Because the point is hanging on this.
Yeah, I was just checking. I'll have a look at the see when he puts the board up, see how many minutes overtime there is, injury time. Didn't count because it was such an interesting thing to listen to. I'm going to open it for debate. Jackie?
Yes. So when you talked about the sort of the areas of deprivation, sorry, I've got to be parochial because I don't know where the other facilities are in comparison with their areas of deprivation, but both at Cricklade and at Wootton Bassett, the two centres there, I know Cricklade we don't run, but it's there, are both within walking distance of the areas of deprivation. So therefore, how are we going to try and get people in those areas to those, because it's not as though it's impossible for them to get there. So going on that, before you get too excited to answer me, are you working with the Rise Trust? And obviously, not the Rise, well, the Rise Trust as well, because they're working in my patch where they're working with young people, but obviously with Spurgeon's as well, because Spurgeon's are obviously running our family hub centres, and we need to perhaps get Spurgeon's to be spreading the word and finding out why families aren't using the leisure centres or are using them or whatever. So that was what I was going to ask.
Lots of questions in there, Jackie. I'll try and come back on them all. So, yeah, it's great. I mean, we did invest 3 million quid in Cricklade, so I'd like to think we still play a huge part in what that centre is delivering. And it's great that it's very close to an area of deprivation in the area. I think perhaps what we need to draw on here is a couple of things, in particular Trowbridge Leisure Centre, because we can see the site that the new centre from here, that the new centre is going to be at. And one of the key decision-making processes in why it is there is it's equidistant virtually to a few hundred metres to all the 3 areas in Trowbridge that are deemed as deprived areas. So we're starting to build new facilities with that in mind. Now, facilities aren't the be-all and end-all, and there's another exciting part to what we're looking at this moment in time. We've got a playing pitch strategy that has been looked at through this committee, and that's just what it says. It's about playing pitches. We are doing a piece of work on built facilities at this moment in time, but there's an area of between built facilities and playing pitch strategies, which is community infrastructure to enable physical activity. It'll probably take us the next 12 months. We might have the early kind of findings of that piece of work that we're doing when we get to the next committee. But this is about taking infrastructure right into the heart of those communities. And let me just link into your next 2 questions, which I know was the Rise Trust, because we've just put a mugger on Bemerton Heath, or we're just about to put a mugger on Bemerton Heath with the Rise Trust. That is, you know, they don't have to get to Five Rivers anymore. They don't have to get to other areas. It's right back in the, slap back in the middle of Bemerton Heath, where we're working with the Rise Trust to put that area where the residents can embark on all kinds of physical activity. Mugger, by the way, for those of you that don't know, multi-use games area. You can use it for a multitude of things. So that's quite exciting. Spurgeon's, which I think was your last point, we have been heavily involved with the Family Hubs project, which I'd say 90%, if not 95% of those family hubs are now based in leisure centres and libraries. So our teams are working very closely with Spurgeon's and the facilitators and the management structures from Spurgeon's to understand, not only help support the families that are coming in for those areas of support, and I think there's a report going to Children's Select next week that looks at the granular detail of that, but we're trying to add value to what they are doing by, you know, if you're bringing families onto your doorstep by just putting these 2 things together, they're going to get involved in naturally in some of the activities that we're doing in some of the leisure centres and libraries, and that is in the report and is starting to happen.
I'm just, can I?
So also, obviously, you're collating information about our town and parishes, because many town and parishes have their own facilities. And again, you know, going back to my parochial Purton, we have football, tennis, bowls, cricket, all under the control of our parish council. And we need to be making sure that we get the young people using those facilities.
Ian?
Agreed.
I'll just add a little bit to that. Don't think of it as all just the objective is get everybody into leisure centres or whatever, right? And I can't remember all the titles, but I rattled through a few of them at council. But for example, doorstep games can take place in different places. So those people, those people who have those challenges to getting to leisure centres to participate in things. The theme is to go to them and get them involved, not necessarily to be doing everything to get them inside a leisure centre. They may never go inside a leisure centre. That's not the be all and end all in this. With regard to your own parish facilities, I think it's kind of a step too far for us to be expecting to kind of coordinating and having intelligence on everything that is going on in every single parish. If you look at the playing fields strategy, that picks out the main sports that everybody's involved in and sets out the plan and the priorities and how they access 106 money, for example, in all of that.
Okay, thank you. Derek?
Thanks. David, latent demand. Could you just talk me through it so I fully understand the significance of it? So, for example, we've got somewhere like, I think the top one, the Five Rivers, we've got a current position, which I presume is a number of members, is that right? Yes. And then we've got a latent demand, which is less, that was, okay, 2015, 2020, but we've got, so a latent demand which is lower than the actual figure that you've got. So could you...
That's a good question, Derek. Apologies. And yeah, I think it was about, waiting for those questions to come back on those specifics rather than use all my 10 minutes kind of describing latent demand. The 2015 figure was when we were embarking on our journey with the people who supply our fitness kit. They used to offer latent demand free of charge back then. So we got a full suite of latent demands. We're 10 years on since that 2015 figure. And this was highlighted as part of the development at Warminster that we came in to speak to this committee about. So the 2022 figure was our way of applying that 2015, which it comes from Experian. They do all number crunching. No, I don't think so at all.
So is it based on what they see as the population, the profile of the population?
Yes, it's a multitude of factors. Yeah, population. How many gyms are in that particular area? A whole host of factors that go into the number crunching that come out. It's quite scientific actually, but it probably take an Environment Select to kind of go through the details on that one. The 2022 was our estimate of population growth in the county and applying that level of population growth to the 2015 figures. It was our guy who does our number crunching in-house, who, well-educated, knows this like the back of his hand, but did his own figures. It was interesting because as part of that Warminster piece of work, it was highlighted that this was our figures and not based on any kind of scientific. So we went to the company that produces this work. If memory serves me right, when we paid an amount of money for the exact figure, he was about 6 members out. So it gave us a good degree of confidence that his workings were pretty accurate.
Okay, but basically, are we saying then that we are at risk of losing membership in those areas where the latent membership, the latent demand is less than the... Is that a risk, or is this latent demand something that we can expect on top of what we've got already?
So the latent demand gives us, for us, in the planning stages, an idea of where there are opportunities. So if our current membership base is nowhere near where the latent demand figure is, we have a look at the centre, you might suggest that somebody like Malmesbury or Leighton Recreation Centre, where we haven't done any refurbishments as yet, and there's a differential. You can see that differential when you look at the patterns. Areas where we have made the adjustments to the fitness kit and spruced up the facility, that's where you tend to be surpassing latent demand. So we at the minute, as part of our fitness projects programme, pipeline projects we call it, we're looking at the ones where there is a differential, doing the project and history has told us since 2015 in this county, if you build it, they will come.
Okay, so Five Rivers looks good, but Bradford-on-Avon doesn't. You know, Bradford-on-Avon is an opportunity, or there's...
Sorry, let me answer Bradford-on-Avon. That's because we can't build an enlarged gym in Bradford-on-Avon.
Right, okay.
So what it's saying, what those figures are saying is, if you had one there, that's the market for it.
Okay, so opportunity, yeah. Okay, can I ask one other question? Okay, just very quickly on, okay, we've got a whole lot of new equipment in, a lot of it's electronic and so on, okay? I'm sort of noticing that some of it's actually failing already, for example, in the Springfield. We're only a few months in. I presume that we've got, you know, warranties on the equipment and so on, and that we expect them to come and repair the kit in an acceptable period of time, and hopefully that we'll iron out all the rubbish kit. Okay, so what's our relationship with the supplier on this?
5-year warranty.
Okay,
5-year warranty.
Certainly on the what we would call the CV kit, so the kit that you're probably referring to, the resistance kit, the weights, that has the longer shelf life.
Yeah.
It is roughly in the region of about 5 years. It may not be the supplier's kit, and probably my hunch is that it's not. But we'll look at absolutely. That's part of the customer service. That, you know, when we receive these things and we know the specifics, we will deal with it. It might be our technology that's letting us down as well, which, you know, we would work with our ICT department to make sure that things are right there as well.
okay. So is it straightforward for the gym instructors to know whether can they diagnose whether or not it's a problem with the supplier of the kit, or whether it's our own?
They would escalate it upwards to management, and management would sort that. Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
Ian McClellan.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah. Price of success. First, I sent you something earlier on today. I don't want to get into the detail of that. I'll leave you to resolve all those things. But the price of success is that you get pressures put on your staff loads and things don't go quite right across the board. And that's not just leisure here. That's every business everywhere. How are you tackling that in the various centres is the only question I will ask about all the stuff from this morning. The other thing is on latent demand. Latent demand, I'll talk football grounds. Whenever you build a new football ground, I know you relate to these things, what was a 40,000 capacity becomes a 60,000 capacity, and you think, well, where are they going to get another 20,000 fans? And they all turn up, and they turn up for different reasons. One, because they are the latent demand, and two, because they suddenly think, well, it's brand new and it's going to be really a good experience, so I'm going to go anyway. I'm not really, been waiting for it, but now it's there, I'm going to want to go too, on top of your program's latent demand. So my question is, where we've got such big latent demands, and I'll take, just as the example because it's nearest me, the Salisbury one, the Five Rivers. Five Rivers is 2/3 latent demand to what you've currently got. We used to have 2 pools in Salisbury. One was near the council building in Bourne Hill. It got knocked down because it wasn't up to scratch, and the leisure centre was built. So is your latent demand across the piece, just, or is it just gym or just swimming or whatever? And is there a possibility of meeting the demand? Is there a possibility of meeting the demand through additional building in Salisbury, as an example, and these other places that are really outstripping themselves? I'll leave it.
If I answer the first part and then I'll let Ian come in on that, because it's quite simple. Those latent demand figures are based on what we call fitness memberships and group exercise memberships. We've got 3 categories of membership, roughly. We do have more than that, but let's just keep it simple. There are swimming, fitness, and then with the fitness, group exercise. Group exercise is the one that probably people love most, and it's got all kinds of benefits by exercising with people. Latent demand is only the fitness and the group exercise memberships that we've got. It does not look at, and there is nowhere in the country, and as soon as there is, we'll start to work with that, but nobody is telling us about a latent demand for fitness memberships or swim school memberships for that matter. So we keep a close eye on the sector to see whether anything like that comes through. But yeah, that's a brief explanation of what our latent demand is built on. Then I'll let Ian come in if you wish.
Sorry, you're kind of asking us, you know, is there another tranche of investment and can you have another pool in Salisbury? Well, can I put you aside with Lizzie and the leader for a bit, please, to get me another allocation of capital? We set about this basically 4 years ago with the capital. It was incumbent on us to use that capital sensibly and demonstrate that there is a return on that, not just on the financial sustainability, but in the benefit to the council and the population and so on. I think what we were trying to say earlier is we think we are demonstrating that. We think we are succeeding, but then we've got to justify yet more expenditure, yet more capital. I think we all know the pressures on money, so we have to prove our case first. And so latent demand is just one little bit of kind of establishing where to do your investment. We've been doing that investment. That has paid off. You know, there's going to be the new leisure centre over there. We opened Melksham. That has pretty well tripled numbers there since what was there before. But these are very, very expensive items with a long capitalisation time. So you can't just go throwing extra leisure centres around in all of this. And we also, never mind Salisbury, I could take you to my own local leisure centres and say, yeah, I'd love to have some of that investment here. So there's still plenty to do in our existing leisure centres. We are embarking at the moment on a review of our built facilities, and that's going to tell us, a little bit more about where we should be doing that investment and what scale of investment may be actually justified or not. So I don't know the answer to that. Your point is taken. I will register with the leader that you want a second swimming pool in Salisbury.
It's worth noting, sorry, Councillor McLennan, we have got 3 pools as part of that complex, and we utilise those, not quite to their max yet, but it's getting there.
You even had Adam Peaty and his team there a week or so ago, paying us money to hire pretty well the whole centre for most of the day.
Yeah, you can't get better than that, can you? I've got nothing but praise for what's gone on, but given that you are registering the demand on my behalf and Salisbury's behalf, it looks to me that if Salisbury makes the money that's down here that it says it makes, that if the leader's got any sort of business acumen at all, and I'm sure he has, then it's a solved case, isn't it? Yeah. That's it. Okay. I think that the other thing to mention, the only other thing I've mentioned, Chairman, is that before the massive change of bringing it in-house, leisure was a crumbling entity. And I don't want to make it a political point at all. What I will say is that the council of 40 years ago, when people used to tell stories about men having us kicked round the corner and not doing this and nobody does anything, that world has long gone. And we're in a very vital council now. And I'd say that as an outgoing member. The council works well, the people work well, the management works well. Bringing leisure in-house has made a vast difference to that whole way of running things. And I would just like to commend the council to A, making that a good decision, but B, looking at other areas where services have been naturally contracted out over time that were sometimes previously in-house. Perhaps we look again at some of those to see if we can improve those too. And the final thought is, how about a 3G pitch at Longhedge in my patch? Thank you. You know we owe us it.
Well done, Ian. I'll have to say, going in-house is probably the best thing we did. And I was on Portfolio for Leisure, and I served under Stuart Wheeler, John Thompson, Jonathan Seed, and Ian, and I fought every time to go in-house because I met Jessica Gibbons and she didn't want to go, and I fell out with her, and we got it all in. We got Jessica Gibbons at the time. I fell out. She's at Bournemouth now. Fell out, and we've got it in-house. It's definitely the right way to go. Before you come, and on latent demand, you're right. The way we go up, Burnley Football Club, they're up on the way up. Yeah. If all of a sudden they go up and carry on going up, your latent demand will go up and they will need a new ground. And this is what we've been doing because our latent demand is going up. And good luck to Burnley anyway. Ian.
Can I just make a point of be careful about horses for courses in the argument about in-house, out-of-house, etc. So, and I'll take as an extreme, and I don't want to say too much about it because it's not my area to talk about. If you take, for example, waste collection is waste collection. It doesn't do much else. The whole point that we have been driving with leisure is that leisure is central, or is kind of partner to so much else that goes on in the council, that it needs that flexibility, it needs that agility that having everything in-house enables you to do. I would say that doesn't mean that going in-house is the right solution for every single council service. It happens to be particularly appropriate for this one.
I got Richard, then I'll take you, Stuart.
Thanks. Well, the first thing to say is I think it's a good report. I think what you're doing is good work. And I welcome the council's commitment to this service. And thank you for providing the financial information. I think I'm probably the person who spoke up a year ago and said, tell me what it's costing. Thank you for that. If I just look at that page to try to understand it, what I think you're showing is the direct costs, the direct people costs, particularly associated with running those centres. I notice that you're not including FM costs, utilities, or VAT for that matter, which means that it's the concern I have is a genuine concern. I mean, I'm a fan of what you're doing and I want to strengthen your elbow, not the opposite. But my anxiety is the extent to which we're exposed by hidden costs that are not being spelled out. And in particular, I appreciate that in many cases, the buildings have multiple uses and that in some cases there is income from subtenants as well, which are in the FM pillar of the organisation. But for example, as a regular user of the NADA Centre myself, my observation is that a significant cost is energy to maintain that, just to keep it warm enough for me to do what I do in the gym. And it would be helpful to have some indication, some estimation, even if it is only an estimation of how big the energy cost is, for example, compared with the net positive. You've got a net positive number at the bottom right-hand corner of 2.4 million. Well done. But how much is that overtaken by the energy cost, for example, simply of running the centres? It would be helpful for me to know.
Completely agree. And everywhere we talk about every leisure centre and all of these things, Dave and I always talk about in net terms, and that includes the FM costs. And in the ideal world, I would want all of the leisure managers to be understanding their day-to-day costs on energy, etc., etc. And if you were to take a completely dispassionate financial look at it and go, you'd say, well, the leisure centres don't pay for themselves. We should get rid of them all. That's it. Because when you put together the FM costs and the leisure costs, it's a net cost to the council. So why are we doing it? We're doing it because of the social benefit and those things. Now, that's where I said earlier, that's the holy grail. That's the bit that's missing at the moment in being able to evaluate and justify that gap between what our full income is and what our full costs are in that. And we are getting there, but we just haven't got it that we can present to you with sufficient confidence and granularity that it actually means something against each leisure centre in that. As an example of energy costs, etc., we closed all our saunas about a year and a half ago, yeah, because of the high energy costs, and that was because the energy costs were going through the roof. We closed them all. We're going to be re-evaluating. We reopened one as a test case and kind of looking at the detail of it. This month, in fact, we're going to be looking at that evidence and going, well, should we be reopening one or two more? Is there more benefit from having them open against the cost of running them? We're looking at every single one of those things. What I would love to be able to present to you, and we will in due course, is to be able to show that whole cost that you're talking about, but also show those other benefits quantified in some metric that justifies that gap.
David.
Yeah, absolutely. And there seems to be, we're getting rising consensus that gap, even though we can't find from the scientific institutes that are looking at this type of thing a measurement tool we know there's that social value element. The value is there to kind of, but just the way I talked in that first slide of my first task, and I believe in doing things simplistically. So my first task to the leisure team was, for a great many of those centres, their expenditure in our budget, forget about the FM stuff, was in excess of the income that we were generating at one point. We can have a look at that if this committee wanted to do so, but that was the case. So my first simplistic task to them was, let's get our income in and you can see there's a 2.4 million surplus there now. So in a great many, some of them it's challenging, particularly in the centre that you use. We've been scratching our heads with that one for quite a while because the fitness memberships are at the highest point they've ever been now, and that's our biggest kind of cash cow. There's a second thing there as well, just to reassure the committee. Staffing costs are in there already, as you quite rightly pointed out. That's the first, any company, the biggest, expenditure is generally, or can be in these purposes, staffing costs. The second one is utilities. That sits outside of ours. There was a culture within the leisure service 10 years ago. Don't worry about that. That's in somebody else's budget. No. We have to take ownership of it. We run these facilities. So where we're at now is each manager, thanks to the engagement with Sarah and her teams, environment teams, and the FM teams in the council, we are getting a level of granular detail about electricity, water, gas, wood chip, whatever it may be. Managers are looking at that level of detail now and starting to work on reducing that as best we can. So we're getting more and more control on that. What we can't control is the price that we're buying it in at. But I'm sure, our colleagues in Estates and FM are doing their very best to procure the best possible prices. Hope that helps as well in the whole picture of where we're moving.
Just quickly, Ed.
If I might just throw in this last penalty, if you're reviewing buildings, then energy and how you get the energy and how efficiently the energy, et cetera, must be a key component of that building review. And I welcome the building review, and that needs to be integrated with what you were just saying, managers managing their own energy. I agree with that.
Will be. The very design is material first of the new leisure centre. It will be probably one of the most efficient leisure centres to run in the country.
Stuart, really.
Thank you. All I can do is, I'm reading these figures with deep admiration, having been unfortunate enough when this council was first set up to be given leisure centres, and I think Jerry and I defended them against people who wanted to actually close them. One of the ones that interests me is the Melksham, which is the new one. And of course, what we inherited there was a rather large shed that was unfit for purpose when we inherited it. And what you've done there is tremendous. What I find fascinating is the fact that if you give people decent facilities, they will come and use them, which is great. What I was wondering was, have we got any comparison? I mean, it seems to me we are, as a council overall, doing a great job on the formal leisure centres here, and they are being used, which is excellent. Do we have any idea how that compares? What else provisions are being made by councils beyond our borders? I mean, for example, what's happening in Swindon? Are they closing leisure centres, or are they managing to keep them open? What's happening over the border in, I don't know, Berkshire and all the rest of it? I mean, are we a shining example, or are we sort of just taking place with the pack, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and the truthful answer is I can't answer with any level of detail on that. Swindon, run by an external operator, like half of ours used to be. GLL, one of the big operators. I was only with some suppliers yesterday who were talking about GLL are losing contracts now to local authorities who are beginning to kind of understand this picture of flexibility and social value and all that. I have spoke to the guys at Swindon about, because they've recently kind of extended GLL. I think it's really down to the fact that the contract that was set up had their arm up their back, to be quite honest. They'd like a better degree of flexibility, but they are where they are. And Berkshire, I don't know. Baines is GLL. South Gloucestershire have their own trust. So pretty much like ours, but an arm's length trust. I guess like Stone Circle operates, that kind of thing, but for leisure. So there's still, you know, there's still a split as to how councils kind of operate. Yeah. Well, you can see with the Oasis and places like that, I think they're struggling, scratching their heads as to how to kind of get the money to get those facilities back. They're really stuck a little bit. And the facilities that I'm a bit of a leisure centre nut, in that even when I go on holiday, I go in the local leisure centre, much to the disgust of my better half, to just have a look and pick up ideas. So having been in the Swindon facilities, they're not the best.
Comment a little.
Ian?
I know you, but you know, we don't get too many opportunities to come and tell you all this, do we? I think I would point out another important aspect, and it's not just about, we talked about insourcing, that's the kind of staffing or whatever, but one of the beauties of the project over the road, and there was talk at an early stage of combining with another developer and doing something different. We're very clear that we did not want to do that. We have done that, or we're doing that on our land with no partnership, no complications, and that is why this project is on time, to the day, no delay, no dependency on anybody else in this. Our money, our land, our decisions in all of that. That's why the Oasis is sat there still waiting for a solution, because the developer won't do it, won't put the money in unless there's other things happening. With regard to how well are we doing with others, the arm's length solution, etc., that kind of worries me. It's the same business about the insourcing, etc. The beauty of what we have now is that we have that flexibility and agility to tune every single leisure centre, everything we do, to what we need within the rest of the council. There's no contract to look at in this and argue about what was thought to be a requirement 4 years ago or so. I would not claim that we're the best in the land and that nobody's ever thought of the rest of these things. David is in contact with other councils where they're thinking, for example, on how you do the social good stuff is up with ours, and they may even be a step ahead of us. So we're not thinking we're the best in the land. That's that. There are others to learn from.
You're correct. And there's a lot of things, Dick, that are hidden within what we've got. I mean, we do GP referrals in a lot of the leisure centres, and that sort of thing is from the doctor. I mean, you've got. I attended a seminar where a lot of couch potatoes live in the county. A lot of people are clinically obese and all that. And a lot of those GPs recommend you need to go to somewhere to get yourself fit. There was GP stroke rehabilitation done it here in Trowbridge a few years ago. So those sort of things, although we take the work on, we don't get any money back from the health service. You know, it's not like, oh, we could charge it back to them. So we do a lot of things within the leisure centres which benefit. It's called about promoting health and wellbeing. I mean, you probably go to keep yourself fit and healthy, you know, and this is what we're trying to do. And we have got child obesity problems in the county, and you do see them being encouraged to go, and the GPs are signing them in. So something that we do. And for another thing, just before I brought anyone else in, is we got the sports awards on Thursday night here in Wiltshire, in Trowbridge, and we promoted many future Olympians and sportsmen. We've had a silver medalist in skiing, in skeleton bob. We've had Francesca went to the rhythmic gymnastics in 2012. Tom Gale attended the Paris ones. So we actually promote our own people within our own county, which is, I think, is worth a lot of money to what our economy is. I'll let you in, Jackie, then I'll let you in, Richard. Jackie, one more question, because you've already had your little bow. How you did?
There's a question, but I mean, I was going to say the same thing, is that there's another value that you can't probably put down on a spreadsheet, and that's the worth of the public's health. And you can only mark that against, I suppose, other authorities who aren't doing as well, as to whether their health of their public isn't as good. But certainly going back to the Swindon issue, I'm sorry to be parochial, but I know that with my building sites that I've had, we've paid money to Swindon for their leisure services. And so it would be interesting to know what else is happening with the SIL monies that are coming in from not just SILs, but the 106s for the developers, as to where that goes, and where certainly when it goes out of county, because the development's on the edge and it goes out of county, as to whether it is being spent on leisure. So I don't know if that's something that we ought to be scrutinising at some point. And, you know, in the same way that you were talking about, you know, the wonderful things that our young people and our older people are achieving through leisure. I've got young people in my community who've achieved really well with gymnastics, but they're going to potentially Swindon places to do their training, but they're getting, you know, excellent results and accolades. So yes, I think we're very, very lucky.
Richard, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The question was asked. I do think it needs answering, as it's been asked. Compared to other places, we've kept all of our leisure centres open. Everywhere else is closed. Well, practically everywhere else is closing some of them because of the financial strain they're under. Whether that be the cost of maintaining swimming pools, and you've seen vast swathes of leisure centres across the country close, where councils haven't been able to maintain swimming pools with the cost of heating them. And you've just had the discussion around public health and the benefits there. And I think it's absolutely critical. And because of the financial position this council's in, we've been able to keep them all open, unlike other councils. And as a result, ours are thriving, unlike other councils. And will we see the public health benefits? Well, I still haven't got good metrics to work out how to measure public health benefits. But so much of the data is based on national surveys, and they're all a bit dodgy. But yeah, I mean, it really is a valid point, and it's critical for the long-term sort of thought process of council to focus on not only keeping leisure centres open, but improving them. That doesn't mean keeping them open in the same place in the same way. It means making them better wherever we can, as well, as we're about to do here.
That's it. Right. No more questions. I think one of the secrets we had, I think, with the swimming pools, did we turn them down 1 degree? So it saved X amount of £1,000. We're a lot, yeah. Did we, we're not allowed to say it publicly. Okay, all right, but I think that's what we did, and it saves quite a lot of thousands of pounds, where a lot of swimming pools in the country have closed for the winter because they can't do it.
It makes you swim faster too. If you're into your swimming, the colder the pool, the faster you go.
You try doing dog paddle at high speed, I can tell you. Right, okay. Thank you, gents, for the recommendations. The resolutions. So A, will note the contents of the update. B, requests that the next select committee asks for a further update, including financial information, leisure membership, satisfaction levels, bank holiday opening, outreach and emerging social benefits. Not making me write anymore, are you? No. Can I have a proposer for that? Ian and Ian again. That's it. One and Stuart. Yeah. Okay. All in favour of that? Thank you, and thanks for that great report, David and Ian. Well done. And I say, keep it going the right way. We're doing very well.
Thanks for your patience. I think we exceeded the 10 minutes.
Yeah. You had I had 30 down and you done 37. Right, okay. Cabinet member updates. So we have a couple of cabinet members here. So this is now a standing item on the select agenda committee. So it's been put to move up the agenda. So we have no officer of cabinet. Have we got some? We got two today. So you can have 3 or 4 minutes each. So if you want to update us, do you want to go in first or would you like to go? Should we go ladies first and let tomorrow?
Go on tomorrow.
Ladies.
Give them a break.
Come on, tomorrow.
Thank you. Just 3 items to update the committee on, and apologies to Jerry for the first because that's LTP4. Jerry was at Cabinet this morning where Cabinet approved the LTP4 for ahead of the extraordinary full council next Tuesday, which I hope you will attend. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So the feedback from the consultation was that the documents were very long and detailed, etc., etc. And so there is an easy read executive summary. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. I think Kieran did highlight that when he sent out the agenda, actually. So hopefully that will be a much easier read. The other point is that the other main theme from the consultation is that actually what we and residents want to know is, okay, so what are you going to do? So also in the agenda is the draft delivery plan. So that is the sort of the themes and how they will be taken forward and the time frame for doing that. And that's Appendix C in your pack for next week. There will be a consultation on the draft delivery plan in the coming weeks, but obviously an opportunity for you to review that ahead of full council and for you to speak on that or question me on that next week. The other items I wanted to update on is passenger transport. So the team are working really hard with the network review, and there are couple of messages there. Firstly, as I've spoken before, the working to bring forward 2 additional demand responsive transport services, replacing old taxi bus type services that have been on part of our service offering for some time, but refreshing those with along the lines of the Pewsey Vale service and with all the technology and the sort of strongly branded buses. So they're working for the Royal Wootton Bath and Malmesbury service, which will include that area, and Jackie is cited on that. Sort of in the late spring, and then to follow the service which will be in the Mere and Warminster area, so in the southwest of the county. So those services are the team are procuring the vehicles and doing the work that's required in order to launch those. The network review in fact, will then follow with some recommendations. But just to give you the broad headlines, the expectation is that in a number of places, we believe that it will be a stronger offer for residents and a more economic offer to switch some of our current sparse fixed timetable buses to DRT. So we will come forward with proposals for that in the coming months, but you can expect that in some other areas there will be more DRT and less, 2 buses a day serving the village. So effectively, as in the case of my village, where I live, we have a bus between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Obviously, if we book it and if there's one available. But that's a brilliant service offer compared to 2 buses a day. The third area of work I wanted to highlight was the work of the Levi team. So that's the electric vehicle infrastructure team. Apologies to Jackie here. And so, Ian and Derek, you were both on the what's in it? The champions? No, area board, ABOR call, isn't it? Yes, on the area board environment leads call last night, where the team gave a very detailed update on all of their work, and I think that was well received from the feedback that I've had. So a huge amount of work is going on with the funding that we secured from the Levi Fund for both headcount and then to move forward to capital for installation. And this is focusing in particular on those areas that do not have access to off-street parking, so providing on-street electric vehicle charging. The team have been reviewing the various technologies that are emerging, working closely with highways. Obviously, they're sitting as part of the highways team to work through the requirements and the implications for highways and highways practices and policies, etc. But you know, that is coming, and there's an awful lot of work going on. So look forward to more progress being made on that in the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tamara. No comments. Any questions? Derek?
Well, Tamara, that's great. The demand responsive transport, of which I'm I think this is future. Are you basically focusing on rural areas really to supplant existing rural services rather than on any, small towns or?
Well, I mean, it's where it will provide the best, bang for our buck, so that our residents get the best service. And in the main, that will be where those services would, are relatively poorly patronised. But that's because, it's one service in the morning and one service in the evening. So in a town where there's an opportunity for greater patronage and there simply are more numbers, then it may be that it's not the best economic solution, but that will be considered.
Richard?
Just picking up on that again, you mentioned Mere at Warminster. You didn't actually put a date on that. Have you got any indication of when?
Richard, so the big lead time in all of this is procurement of the vehicles, and the team, are pushing that through with their suppliers as fast as they can. We're working to late spring for the northern one. I think the southern one is probably going to be later into the summer, early autumn. But yes, this year. Yes, if that's good news. And the intention is that serves Gillingham Station to provide a connection down there, which I know is a bit further on west from where you are, but there will be a connection for those villages to Gillingham into the rail network.
Okay, anybody else? I'm not going to be parochial, but I know the area I live is doing very well with it. So anyway, thank you for that, Tamara. Ian, any cabinet updates? You've had a good inning, so
always have 3 points. Firstly, sorry, thank you, Chair. Library strategy for those who are cabinet addicts. You've probably seen it and read it, or whatever. Those who haven't, it's now being published, and it's a good read. In that, what it is highlighting is how much more libraries are doing than people think of traditionally as libraries. It's the same point as the leisure centres. Make yourself useful to the council's objectives as a whole, the council's work as a whole. So that's why you can get a thermal camera, why you can, so many other activities go on in libraries. I just saw a case study this morning, in fact, a report that came from the hubs activities over, I think it was half term, that was just a fantastic story of what has gone on in the family hubs, in the libraries, over half term. Fantastic work, and I'll make sure that gets out there. So a good read, and you'll understand how much more libraries are doing and will be doing. The second is about area boards, and that is to say that I hope you've all had a look already at the dashboard, in which you can look up every single project, every single bit of funding that's gone through the area boards, and so you can look for anything and everything in there. And alongside that, we're publishing case studies of those really good examples, so that one area board can learn and look across the fence at what's happened in another area board that was of particular success. So it's just driving forward improvements, but it's a matter of those area boards taking a look taking a think and taking the initiative in that. The final one, we've already talked about it quite a bit this afternoon, and that is to say that we have now signed the contract. We can now publicly say who is our contracted constructor. That's Pelican. It's the same company that led the building of Melksham Leisure Centre. So I have absolute confidence in what they will be delivering here. And Richard and I will be down there tomorrow with a photo opportunity with the Pelican and Leisure Alliance folk to publicly announce that. So this is terrifically good news, and it goes back to the point of our land, our money, our decisions in support of our objectives in all of this.
Thank you, Ian. Any questions for Ian? No, you've got away with it. So, oh, sorry.
Are you going to come to Children's Select next week to give us an update on the work then that's going on with Spurgeons in the libraries, or have you done a written report, or is that? No, I mean, not that I'm asking you to. I can feed that back, because I obviously, when I attend these meetings, I let Children's Select know what I've heard here. So yeah, no.
Okay, so that's two cabinets. So I won't call you a cabinet member, Richard, because you might plop me around here. So leader, I know you're cabinet on cabinet. Have you anything to tell us?
Well, technically, I'm a cabinet member as well. I think according to whatever the constitution says. I think honestly, we've covered off the bulk of the areas. I think the only thing that's new since the last time I was talking to you is that we are starting to get some input back from the Wiltshire Mark, which seems to be doing very well. It's early days. I think we need to get another few months in before we can give some definitive data on that. And I have asked officers to make sure we're gathering definitive data, because it's really important to actually understand what the evidence says, not just what anecdotal evidence says. But so far, it seems to be proving very useful for those who've joined it. I don't think there's anything further to add. No, there's not, there are no other updates.
Okay, any questions for Richard? No. Oh, well, that's very good. Well, thank you very much then for, that's the updates done. So now we go to item 9, which is the review of the work of the Environment Select Committee. So the Select Committee received a report to highlight key aspects of the work of the Select Committee that we've done since 21, and to recommend topics as legacy items to the Management Committee for inclusion in the new overview and scrutiny work programme after the elections in May. So these are on 47 to 56 of the agenda pack. We've been looking at our forward work plan and our legacy to all committee members who were given an opportunity to input into this. So if you look at Appendix 1, which sets out our key activities, 21 to 25, and Appendix 2 are the topics which select committees may wish to recommend considered during the next council session. So, and paragraphs 7 to 12 are issues that we may want to highlight to the next select committee to improve overview and scrutiny. So please note that the management committee will need to leave space and capacity for those leading the election to develop their own work programme based on the ideas resulting from the public views expressed during the election period and following early engagement with any new executive. So, select committee, do you have any comments or questions or suggestions? Because I'd be interested in the comments, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of the select committee over the approach over the last years we've been working together here. So have we got any suggestions? I know it's been a long day for me, but not for you. So what is it? Have we got anything? Jackie, you've gone astonishingly quiet. That's okay. It's not. Derek.
No, I mean, I think the reviews that we've had on our meetings at the end have been very successful. I think we'll be able to. We're getting through more work because we're reducing the amount of input that we're taking on. So by asking for, by limiting the time made for presentations and reducing the amount of documentation that we've got to look at, we're able to you know, to scrutinise much better the, you know, the issues at hand. So that's very much a progress. Thank you.
Nick, you're okay? Fine? Yeah.
Chairman, if I may, I'd like to share some reflections. I joined this committee a year ago, and as you'll all be familiar, I've been particularly anxious about the issue of highways maintenance. I think that's a really important topic, and I'd like to stand back from what's gone on over the last 12 months and just draw out some lessons, if I may. The council is under very clear legal obligations from the Highways Act of 1980 to maintain highways in a safe and suitable fashion for use. The council can defend itself if it can demonstrate that it's taken all reasonable steps to do so, and that it's inspected the highways in an appropriate fashion. It's also under a clear duty of law to act fairly and in procedural fairness and natural justice, and to demonstrate that it isn't showing bias. Now, I took a long time, but finally, just over a month ago, I did receive data which, on my interpretation and analysis, appeared to me to give some evidence that a fair-minded and informed observer, which is a phrase that comes out of a bit of case law, might conclude showed a real possibility of bias. Furthermore, in my own division, and I'm inevitably parochial here because that's where I have the detailed familiarity and understanding, I know of a number of instances where roads have been on the list of major projects for maintenance work to be carried out for more than a year, for several years. I don't know how many years because I haven't been able to go back far enough. So my own view, looking back now over a year to the Highways Maintenance Report, which was on our agenda pack a year ago at our meeting, I think last March, I don't know, 300 or 400 pages of it, was that there was a great deal of detail, but that as a committee, we were unable to focus on those legal, we did not adequately, in my submission, focus adequately on this issue of whether or not we were delivering our legal obligations to the residents. And it is not, in my view, sufficient for the cabinet member and officers to say that they don't take notice of geography or boundaries, that they follow engineers' guidance if the data then subsequently appears to show that there may be evidence of a bias. Residents where evidence of bias appears to have shown may have a claim of negligence, and that's something that we as a committee ought to be wary of. So it seems to me, I've got a short list here of 3 questions that I would urge us to ask in future cases of highways maintenance reports. 3 questions.
And do you want to, I know Parvis is sitting there. Do you want to?
Sorry, Chair. Allegations of bias. I mean, this is serious stuff, and without something to back it up, I really am concerned that this is being discussed in a scrutiny committee with no notice and without evidence.
Okay. So, Richard, I know you're summing up.
I would, in future cases where we're looking at highways maintenance reports, urge the committee to consider these 3 questions. What is the spend per mile or kilometre by area and road class? And how does that compare with previous years? And how do you justify the greatest differences in spending between areas of similar demography or geography? Secondly, what major projects have been on the list for more than 1, 2, 3 years, and why are they so badly delayed? And thirdly, by geography, how many claims have been made against the council as arising from road conditions, either for vehicle or wheel or suspension damage or for personal injury? And I don't believe that any of those 3 questions were answered in the highways maintenance report that we saw before us a year ago. And it took me a great deal of effort and work to draw the answers out over the time I've been on this committee.
Okay, I've taken your points. The questions are all coming to the new council. The only thing I would say to you, to go back to your Liberal Democrat group and say, why did you vote against the 10 million extra spend last year that we proposed in the budget? Because you voted against it, and we need more money to spend on it, you know. So, but I'm not going to get apolitical here, because it isn't. We've been friendly all through the time.
And I'm not making a party political point. I'm trying to reflect on the
that's your
purposes
reflection.
of this committee
Okay.
and how this committee may better serve the interests of the residents.
Well, it depends on whether there's.
Derek, yeah,
Actually, in fact, I do actually, because I think that from my experience of trying to get cooperation and to work with highways has been a struggle, and you know, and I would just say that it would be very beneficial if highways would not be sensitive, shall we say, to points being made and to work in conjunction rather than, you know, cooperatively to come up with reasonable solutions. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Done. I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to do the draft resolution here. The Select Committee approves Appendix 1 as the list of Environment Select Committee key activities and achievements during 21-25. Approve Appendix 2 to recommend to the Management Committee as topics requiring the further work in the new council, including reasons. C, approves the recommendations made to improve the working of the Select Committee regarding earlier engagement report regarding reports, prioritisation of its workload, members' questions, task groups, rapid scrutiny, briefings and site visits, public engagement. And notes that steps in the next paragraph 13. Can I have a proposal for that? Thank you. Seconded. All in favour? Ooh, okay. All but one. Against? Okay. No, I'm not going to go anymore. Leaving it. Urgent. I've taken it into account. Urgent items. There's none. Oh, is there an urgent item, Ian?
Well, because you've got to close the meeting the next moment, I will just say this is my very last Environment Select meeting, and I thank you, Chairman, for your warmth throughout the sessions, and previous Chairman too, and cheerio all from the Environment Select, and it's been a pleasure to be on this committee throughout my time as a councillor. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure serving you. I hope you go out and support Burnley for many years. And I also have to want to thank my chairman personally, because Derek has come and been with me the last year. I know we had the sad loss of Bob Jones, who was on here for many years. But Derek, I don't think you're standing again. So this is your last Environment Select meeting. So I want to thank you personally. I think everybody else stands. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Kay, and thank you, Simon. So, and did you want to say something? All right, well, don't, I've got to get out the door. Thank you very much. I declare this meeting closed, and good luck in